All right, committee, it's after 1:30. I think we have some others that are joining us by WebEx. And we're going to start off the meeting with some bill introductions. I think I know of two, which, we were getting a little bit low, so that's a good thing. So I'll recognize Representative Thomas on the first one. You might get to do both, but yeah, good vice chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My bill number is 21 RS 0926 regarding personal financial literacy requirements.
Okay, and I think Nick is on the line. I think he has got that. So without objection, we will introduce that bill. I'll just go ahead and do the other one. Linda Highland, Ron Highland's wife, had a bill last year that we heard and worked. And so I know you have a DRS number, Nick, if you wanted to just share that with the committee so that everyone's aware of it.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Chairman. Let me pull up my spreadsheet real fast. So yeah, that bill you were referring to is RS 1040.
Okay. Could you give just a brief explanation of it so the committee knows what we're dealing with?
Yeah, certainly. It's amending a provision in the Student Data Privacy Act regarding the administration of certain tests and questionnaires.
Okay. So I can tell the committee for that were here last year that it's a pretty simple bill, and I think you'll enjoy hearing the testimony. And so without objection, we will introduce that as a committee bill. Any further bills? I haven't heard of anything. Have you heard anything, Nick? Of anybody else contacting you? Nope.
I think just leave the meeting open and we'll see if anybody introduces anything and go from there.
Okay, when's the deadline again?
Yeah, certainly. The deadline for non-exempt committee bill requests to be made, which what we're doing right now, is Monday.
Okay. Well, if I hear anybody now, I'll tell them they need to go to one of the important committees because we aren't one of those. So, but to my committee, you are important to me. So, no slight intended. All right. Yeah. Hey, let's thank you for that, Nick. Let's move on. And I think,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can we get a brief explanation of the?
Financial literacy?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure he's ready. Go ahead.
It's real simple. It's sort of like the civics bill. It's going to require financial literacy competency before graduation. So as far as the details, the intricacies of all of that, I don't have all of that yet, but yes.
And I can tell you that it's an issue I've worked on in the past. And right now we're at the point where it's strongly encouraged. The state board has a curriculum. It's a part of standards. They allow local control to decide how to handle that decision. I know my school district in Valley Center has made it a class requirement. And so I told my vice chairman, I appreciate his enthusiasm on the issue. It's a good hearing to have. I don't know. We'll see how that hearing goes, but I didn't in any way wanted to discourage him from introducing a bill because I can look right now. I have my teacher liability bill for next week. This bill that we just introduced and his bill, we have 3 weeks. So at bare minimum, for the next 3 weeks, we all have at least one hearing. Life is good. All right. Well, yes. And again, leadership has encouraged us. Is a bill worth, somebody, catching COVID for us to work it on the floor? So they're telling us, be cautious, prioritize things that you think are important, and I'm trying to do that. And I appreciate the committee's respect and that, we don't have a mountain of bills in our committee. I think these two will get us up to 8. But I think we've had so far the first 4 weeks. We've had some good topics, and we're having a good committee. So part of that, the Education Budget Committee has been sharing good information, and you should have gotten some links sent out by Deborah. And if you haven't had a chance to look at those, I would encourage you to do that. We're going to get just a brief, maybe explanation from either Nick or Jess, I don't know. Again, the content in those briefings are things that Education Budget has been looking at. And if you ever complain about your chairman being too hard on you, I mean, Chairman Williams is, man, she's a slave driver. She's making us meet today and work bills, and I mean, you know, yeah. So I'm easy. I mean, come on. All right. If, you know, you don't even have to go into, if you could just, you know, in a few sentences, kind of, do you have those available to you, Nick? Or is Jess on the line? I'm looking on the screen.
Yeah, Jess, I don't know if you want to go over those things or if you want me to. Mr. Chairman,
Just
what I'm
briefly,
showing,
go ahead.
yeah, what I'm showing is there's a couple of memos about continuous learning plans that was implemented last year by school districts in response to waiving some school hours requirements. There's a few memos about virtual schools and what are the requirements for a virtual school in the state. There's also a spreadsheet that lists out all the virtual schools and provides the head count. And then also I see some testimony from
Carl Mon is the one that testified yesterday that was my naturalized citizen, and that he just provided written testimony. And then I also was just going over some testimony that Matt Klusner had also sent, but I don't think that was handed out yet because we just got that.
yeah, so there might be some stuff coming. I see some testimony from a board president, it looks like, and I haven't had a chance to review that yet.
Yeah, and that's just for your knowledge also, FYI. But again, if you have time over the next 4 to 5 days, you know, look at those handouts. If you have questions, you know, you can get them to me or to Deborah, and we'll get answers for you. I would also encourage you, as a part of my testimony yesterday, there was several links included, including from AEI. There were 4 good links that are with civics, testing and history, and says, you know, participation, just some really good information there. It's, again, an organization that I belong to, and I would encourage you, if you have an interest in learning more about the topic, you know, and your board, look at them. And if you have questions on those, we'll get answers too for you on those. Does anybody have questions or anything? You know, one of the things yesterday was just a good chance for parents. There was, you know, some school board members. There was just a chance for some people to share their thoughts on what's happening in schools right now with the hybrid plans, what remote plans look like, what are the good things about that, what are the frustrations. It was the meeting lasted until 6 o'clock, and there was just a lot of good personal testimonies. And again, you know, Christy kept us there till 6 o'clock. Not that I'm complaining about Christy again, but wait a minute, I am. I'm complaining. No. So the good news for you is, if you don't ask me a lot of questions, or if you don't, again, if you've heard things from your districts that you think are pertinent or are part of just us getting information to the state board as they continue to work with local school boards on what's going on right now, how to make things better, you know, again, reach out. I think today we're going to be hearing more even about some of the the federal funding And Nick, do you know more about that? That might be something for us to be briefed on in the future, but if you know anything that you could share even about that discussion that's going to be held and the money that's going to be coming into our local schools through that federal funding, could you give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wouldn't want to speak too much on that issue just yet. Uh, I believe there
week.
may be some better people in the building or
Okay.
through the department that the Department of
Okay.
Education. I mean,
Well, and I know Jess is on the call too, or on the meeting today. So Jessa, you might even try to get some information on that to Deborah, and we'll get that out, because I know funding is always an issue that our schools care about. And with what's coming, we want to make sure as that money is going out, how has the federal money been used, this year already? How can we make sure that it's being used effectively in the future so that, we can improve, the hybrid plans that are being used in our schools right now? And then hopefully, maybe in another month or so, I believe there's a lot of schools that are going to start going to more in-person instruction. And I believe it's the right thing to do. I know I'm encouraging that. We can do it safely. And I appreciate, like I said, there is a lot of frustration out there. And I know that I have several grandkids that are in the Gardner district that are very happy that on February 8th, they're going to in-person instruction. So maybe in a small way, I had a hand in helping to get that done. That's what I tell my grandkids to make them proud of me, and they're like, yeah, Grandpa, tell yourself whatever it takes to, But I did when I did my radio interview on the civics bill, it was in Kansas City 98.1. I did a shout out to my grandkids. And before the host knew what I was doing, I said, thank you for letting me to do that. And they kind of laughed. And then my grandson was like, man, that was awesome, Grandpa. Thanks for the shout out. So, all right, I'm talking. I keep talking until you tell me you don't want to hear me anymore or you ask questions. Does anybody online or anybody in the room have questions or comments about, anything you might be hearing from your parents, your districts, on what's going on right now? Because this is an open format even today, just to look at those handouts. Go ahead, Representative Sanders.
So I had a conversation with the superintendent of USD 305 today to get an update on what's going on. And if you'd allow me about 3 minutes or so, I'd like to pass that along. So they originally had wanted to start out online across the board, and there was quite a protest of people that didn't want that in Salina. And so starting with week 2, elementary schools have been in person all day for basically the whole year, except for the first week of school. Junior high and senior high, they started out online only the first quarter, and it was half of the students went online Monday and Tuesday, the other half went online Wednesday and Thursday, and then everybody was online on Friday. And on the days, like if you were a Monday, Tuesday person, Wednesday and Thursday, you were supposed to watch videos and take care of other assignments, but there wasn't any interaction with the teacher in the off days. So the second quarter, the Salina schools went to every student in person for a half a day. So half the students went in the morning and half the students went in the afternoon, but everybody went in person every day, and that's the way it continues now. USD 305 has made the decision to only allow 2 two guests per participant at high school level sports, even though KSHA has moved it up to 4, and they're only allowing 1 person per participant for junior high sports because the gyms are smaller and they want to try to get the distancing going. They've done something that I think is strikes me as a really good idea. And Superintendent Exline was noting that she has 3 kids and they're getting along fine with the situation, the way they've got it now, but some kids aren't. So they've started a student-by-student evaluation, and they're trying to figure out by, I guess, some sort of interview or some sort of process of finding out which kids are struggling and which kids are getting along more or less fine. And so then when they can determine the status of each student, they're going to develop plans for how to deal with the ones that are struggling. And her biggest concern, and I told her, don't get your hopes up for this because I don't think it's going to happen this school year, but she would like to get all her teachers vaccinated. And there aren't the doses available in Saline County for that to happen. And I said, even if you were able to get them all in to be vaccinated today, it'd be at least another 30 days before they'd have the second shot. And she said, you know, I kind of know that. But that's would be her thing, would be to try to get all of her teachers vaccinated, at least all the ones who want it. And she did say that the feedback she's getting is that a lot of the teachers do want the vaccination, but she doesn't hold out any hope that that's really going to happen this school year, you know, possibly by summer, but not before the end of May. So anyway, that's the update from USD 305 in Salina.
For that. Does anybody have any questions for Representative Sanders? Did you get any feedback from your superintendent as far as, did he have? I'm sorry. Any other,
Well, now this is interesting because I had lunch with Representative Stephen Howe. He's the other Salina representative. And he was telling me he had talked to her on a separate subject. It was, they apparently don't have the money for the, what is it, the graduate into work program. I don't think I'm saying that right. It's $22,000 and they say they don't have it, which is, I would hope that they would find a way to rearrange some of their funds so that they would have it. But he said that they've lost 300 students since going into this year. And so seeing as it's based on a per pupil, 300, that's quite a hit to the district to lose that number of kids. And he wasn't sure where they were going, if they're going to private schools or home schools or going to other schools, because some kids in Salina go to Bennington or they go to southeast of Saline and Assyria. But you take 300 out of our district, that's quite a financial hit.
Okay. Representative Wolf, more. No, continue with sharing from your district.
I appreciate the opportunity. First of all, I have appreciated that we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach because my district's in Wyandotte County's positivity has been one of the highest in the state. So there's 4 school districts in Wyandotte County. They're all doing it a little bit different, but I think they're responding to our health department. So I appreciate the fact that those school boards have been able to make those decisions for what works best for the health status in our community. The thing that the school boards, I believe all 4 of their superintendents asked me to be educated on and pass on is there's a lot of talk that there's lots of extra money. They got this CARES Act money, you know, sometimes the kids aren't in school. Isn't there extra money? Should we cut education? And the reality is that the expenses sometimes have outstripped what they've received in money. And, you know, 90% of their costs are in personnel, and that personnel continues to show up. But additionally, the list that they gave me, you know, think about their daily screening costs, their PPE, the barriers they've had to erect. The sub costs were a big one. So if a teacher has to be quarantined because she's been exposed or a teacher is ill herself, you know, the sub costs have just gone through the roof in some of these districts, and they've had to spend money on that. hotspots for Wi-Fi. That's a real big one in one of my districts. They have computers, but oftentimes there's not enough hotspots. Some of them had to additionally expend monies on additional staff to deal with the remote students also. And one thing in particular they asked me to pass on, there's talk that, you're getting this federal money, can't you use it for other things? And most of the federal money, for example, for lunches, that's federal money, and it could only be used for school lunches. So I think there's, I'm not saying in this committee, but in general, there's some misconceptions that, they don't continue to need the money that they will be getting through Gannon because they've gotten all this extra money, or in a couple of my school districts' cases, they actually have had to dip into reserves because that's just a small list of the things they've had to do to serve their districts during this difficult time. So I think the remote learning or the hybrid learning is actually more expensive than the regular in-class and in-person learning. So,
And I think they're going to be looking in that too and doing some auditing and then making recommendations, lessons learned from how to make improvements on that. So if you share that with Deborah, your notes and comments, we'll get them in the minutes.
okay.
And then also for you, get them to Deborah, and we'll include those in our minutes also. And I think we also had Representative Schreiber online that had some comments too. So this is what I was looking forward to in this, for this committee briefing and update. So thank you for helping me not to just keep talking. Representative Schreiber.
Mr. Chair, this is Nick. It looked like Representative Schreiber might be busy at the time, but I was just going to note that the memo that's being provided to K through 12 education budget from KLRD on the COVID-19 federal funds for K through 12 education, that goes into great detail of the use of those federal funds. And then there's spreadsheets with the school districts and the amounts of money that they received under those funds. And looking at that memo, you'll see why I wasn't quite ready to speak on that yet. But I think you might be interested in getting that to the committee as well. It sounds.
Yeah, we will get that to the committee, and then by next week, I'm sure you will be an expert on that topic and can answer questions. But I did see it already on my agenda for my 3:30 meeting, which I think there's a few people in here that'll get to hear that also. But we will get it to the committee, get you answers, and thank you for that update, Nick. Representative Schreiber, are you available? If Representative Schreiber is available in the next few minutes, we will go back to him. Did he text you or just raise his hand? All right. Maybe he was just stretching. Go ahead. Did you have some comments too or input?
Yeah. Before session started, I had a chance to meet with several superintendents before, so I hadn't seen anything of this committee yet. And it was interesting that I think it was, a lot of them had lost about 30% of their students. Some of it went to private schools. They were running 10 to 15% had gone to homeschool, so, and then some had moved out of the district, and so there was a lot of change there. Our district, where I am at 310, it's in my home district and all, they're committed to staying in person learning, and their only problem has been, of course, is staff. So when they have somebody that's been exposed or whatever and had to be quarantined, and then everybody had to start to fill in. They've run short on substitute teachers and bus drivers and everything else. I think the superintendent has driven a bus, has been a substitute teacher, and any number of things like that. So they've been adapting pretty well, but it's been a struggle, no doubt. But
well, thanks for sharing. And again, anything that you got that you would like to provide to Deborah to have in the minutes too, as far as from your districts. If you don't worry about it.
Not really. That was just
okay.
Off the top of my head. Yeah.
All right, that works also. Are we hearing anything more from Schreiber? Representative Schreiber, just don't raise your hand if you don't want to talk. All right. Just kidding. I know him well enough that I can harass him.
Yeah. Well, I had my hand up, Mr. Chairman. I was waving like all over and nobody was watching the TV.
This is our third time to attempt to reach out to you to speak. I was starting to think that you were just messing with me.
Well, that's an idea for future.
All right, the
No.
floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. And I apologize. I got a call just as you had started to recognize me. So I apologize for that. But anyway,
Excuses.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
use. In the Emporia School District 253, they've gone into phase 2 back in mid-January, but next Monday they're going to go to phase 3, which allows more people to show up in class if they want to. They're still operating a little bit on a hybrid plan, but they're starting to move forward, and it sounds like other districts have too, as far as starting to try to bring the number of students to increase those number of students on site there at the schools and bring a little bit of normalcy back. But they do still allow some of those students then to connect virtually as well. One of the things and this might go back to when the meeting first started, was the information that was provided by Deborah, and I appreciate that. I was wondering what Dr. Watson's, I assume Dr. Watson testified yesterday. I was just curious kind of what his statewide view of the situation was.
Dr. Watson didn't testify, but I believe that there probably will be a chance in the future for him to do that. And so if we get more information from him, we will get that to the committee also.
Okay.
But at this time, he wasn't somebody that was in the loop. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure they're busy even now trying to help school districts. I know I talked with Brad Newslander. I probably butchered his last name. He said 90% of their efforts over there right now is helping to put out fires, deal with all the issues that are coming up, and it's very time consuming for the state board. They're working hard, doing their best, and the message I think that we're all trying to get out there is, yes, we want to do better. Yes, it's been hard for our kids. Be patient, and we will do better. And I know from the legislature, our goal is not to attack. Some people have perceived that as the case. I know it's not my desire, and I firmly believe that it's not Christie's desire either to attack, but it is to try to be a motivating factor of getting information out and looking at that we are all better served when we can move to in-person instruction and to do that safely. And I know that Brad has said that that's the state board's efforts, goals, and desire. And again, I think that we're going to see more of that over the next few weeks to the next month. If you share anything that you got with Deborah too, we'll get that into the minutes.
Okay.
And I know my own superintendent in Valley Center sent me a link of information on how their federal money is being spent and the challenges they're facing. And I'm going to add that to the minutes. And it was interesting to me yesterday, one of the people that spoke was a parent from Mays, which is in my district. And I'm going to try to get her comments to get them added even to this meeting, because as parents, you try to work with your school board and your superintendent and to share information and ideas. And I was amazed that there was this group in Mays, somewhere there's a pun or something in there, but the hours that they were putting in as parents, trying to do their best for their kids, and the challenges they were dealing with 2 working parent families and other issues. And, sometimes with school boards and superintendents, parents just don't feel like they're being engaged or listened to. And so some of what we're doing now is trying to accommodate that and encourage that and work together, because that's how we, tone down some of the rhetoric that's not productive. So in Christie's
Right.
committee, that was the goal, and that's my goal. Representative Schreiber, did you have some more to add?
No, I just kind of agree. It's been tough on everybody from staff to parents and children. I mean, the students. So, but I'm kind of like you. I'm glad things are starting to kind of evolve and transition to maybe more in classroom type instruction. So hopefully that'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Schreiber. Representative Sanders.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, does anybody have any figures about statewide, about how many schools are in person, how many are hybrid?
We have that information,
Okay,
and we can,
I'd like to be able to
you
see.
might already have, I don't know, I'll check to see if you haven't already gotten it in your inbox. We will get it to you. And I can also tell you this week in education budget, Chairman Williams asked, they're getting ready to do a new update on that on, I think it's as of the second week of January. What is the current status? Because the information we had, I think, was from last year. And so she was really encouraging the state board to do an update for current information. So that'll be coming also.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Somebody, did I see another hand? No. Anybody online that has questions or comments? Representative Thomas has got his screen up, so he'll help me look. He's not seeing anything. Don't mess with me. All right. Did you have another question or comment?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I just heard a little bit about the meeting and education budget and the people who came forward. And
yeah.
So I guess my question is, and I'm education, is there going to be something coming out of that, something coming forward that will change the way we're allowing school boards to make those decisions? Or end game?
Well, I think the end game, even for that hearing yesterday, was an open forum. And I don't think its end game was to force change or to, and again, we as a legislature last June made the changes to the emergency management that put that local control in place. That hasn't changed because we just updated that when we got back to the legislature, and that's in place until March. And so as far as local boards and local counties having control over all this information and decision, that's in place. And that's not going to be challenged. But the forum and then this meeting and others is just a chance to communicate, to discuss ideas. Some of this is even lessons learned. If school districts are having success and doing some things with hybrid plans, sharing it in formats so that other schools can, and I know the state board is really trying to promote that, take the lessons learned of successes and get that information out to other districts so they can duplicate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. And again, the state board is meeting next week for their monthly meetings on Tuesday, I think Tuesday and Wednesday. And I know this is a high topic for them that they're still trying to stay on top of and deal with. And then again, they graciously have allowed me 15 minutes to join them and not just with my civics bill, but on several things that I feel are important. And my intent in even going over to the school board is to be productive as we partner on these issues. And the computing science hearing that we're having next week on Tuesday is something that I started on 2 years ago in this committee. And we had a good partnership, from 2 years ago to last year where they implemented new standards and plans. And when I was at Boeing, we had a continuous quality process called Plan, Do, Check, Act. And I think, that's what I'm on the computing science stuff. I'm trying to promote Plan, Do, Check, Act. I'm in the early stages of that with my citizenship thing, but with the online, remote, and everything else, we're making plans, we're acting, we're seeing how it works, and then we're, continually trying to do better. And for me, my main goal in going over to the state board last year and even this year is saying the more that the legislature partners with the state board, the better off we are. And I'm trying to help, we've had some walls between the state board and the legislature. I think we've taken some small steps to improving that. And, I know emotions run high. And Jim Porter and I, we got to go to San Diego last year for an Excellence in Education meeting. And then, the computing science stuff's being worked on, the citizenship stuff was being worked on. There was a lot of things going on, but what really happened for Jim and I was bonding and recognizing the relationships help us work better together, because he sent me an email and he was sharing his frustrations and, what he was concerned about, even on things that he'd been hearing from the legislature. And we had the relationship where he could send me a very honest email, and I briefly responded to that. I didn't have time to fully respond because I was getting ready for my hearing yesterday, but even my quick response to his concerns, I think, helped him to say, thank you, Representative Hubert, for just that quick response back to me. And so I'm going to follow up on that with next week. And again, I would, for all of us with emotions high, we just all have to be voices of reason. We hear a lot of different things. We hear a lot of frustrations from our parents and even from kids and grandkids and everything else. And we just have to, again, be patient, work together, do the best we can, and make the best of our current circumstances. So, questions or comments, Representative Sanders?
Mr. Chairman, have you heard anything about whether or not the high school basketball tournaments, the state tournaments, are going to be held this year?
I don't think decisions like that have been made yet. I think there's a good chance. It'll depend a lot on what happens. We're having good trends right now on COVID, and it's down. It's the trends are good. We're getting ready to come out of winter, and if we continue to do the things we're doing with protecting ourselves, then social distancing, wearing our masks, we're going to be good. And I believe things like that, are going to happen. But, if all of a sudden we have another spike, in the next 4 weeks, then good chance that it doesn't happen. So I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful that we have an NCAA tournament this year. Go Shockers, so we're probably, the Shockers, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say we're probably the best team in the state right now. And that being said, KU will probably be a 4 seed and we're on the bubble of the tournament, but life as a Shocker fan. Sorry for digressing there. It's a part of my stress reduction to watch this. We won last night 75-67, and we're in second place in the American Conference. Other comments? Hey, this was kind of what I was looking for. For you that haven't shared, if you get information from your school districts or superintendents and anything that you want to include in kind of the minutes of this meeting, get them to Deborah. We won't be approving these minutes for another, at least week. So we have time for each of you to reach out even over the next 4 days and let your superintendents and school board members know that we are trying to facilitate communication, cooperation, sharing ideas, lessons learned. And so you have time to reach out, get feedback, and we'll get it in our minutes too. And with that, Chairman, without further questions or comments, I will adjourn this meeting so that you don't have to listen to me anymore. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.